Britain was ruled by a brave and wise king named Uther Pendragon. But the king was troubled because he was childless. He was also desperately in love with Igraine, the Duke of Tintagel's wife. So the king turned to the wizard Merlin for help.
Merlin, please take pity on me. I'm in love with Lady Igraine. Help me to make her mine.
I will help you, but if you and Igraine ever get a child, you will give him to me.
The king agreed, and Merlin wove a spell which made the king look exactly like the duke. Uther entered Tintagel Castle disguised as the duke and went to Igraine's room. She thought he was her husband, and they spent the night together. A few days later, the duke was killed in battle. Uther then took Tintagel Castle and married Igraine. 9 months passed, and the queen gave birth to a baby boy. The royal couple named their son Arthur, but the king had promised to turn over any children born of his union with Igraine to Merlin. With pain in his heart, Uther gave their only son over to Merlin's care, and Igraine was forced to say goodbye to her child forever. She died not long after that. Merlin took the child to the castle of Sir Ector, a loyal friend of the king's.
Sir Ector, I want you to take care of this child as if he were your own son.
No one there knew the boy's true identity. Meanwhile, some months after giving away his only son, King Uther became ill and died. But with no prince to lead the kingdom, dukes and lords disputed over who was best fit to rule England. They asked Merlin to find a solution.
In this stone I put a sword. The man who can pull out this sword from the stone will be king of all England. The sword is magic, and only he who is fit to rule England can pull it from the stone.
People from far and wide came to try and pull the sword from the stone, but not even the strongest of men could do it. Eventually, the sword became forgotten, and England fell into greater ruin. One day, when Arthur was 15, Merlin brought him before the sword in the stone. Arthur tried to pull the sword, and it came loose. The crowd cheered, and Arthur was crowned King of England. And Arthur proved that he was the greatest warrior ever alive. As king, he used his skills in fighting and leadership to drive all enemies away. And from Merlin, Arthur had learned to be a wise and just king who fought only to protect his people. One night, a young woman came to his castle and asked for shelter. She was a good-looking woman, and Arthur slept with her that night. The next morning, she was gone, and the king was all alone again. He never learned her name. In time, he learned to forget her and to move on. Until he met Guinevere, the most beautiful woman Arthur had ever seen.
Merlin, I'm desperately in love with Guinevere.
Be careful, Arthur. Guinevere will bring you nothing but misery.
I'm going to marry her and no one else, Merlin, whether you like it or not.
The next day, Arthur asked Guinevere's father for her hand, and he agreed. Everyone in the kingdom was filled with excitement and happiness. Everyone, that is, except for Merlin. So he took Arthur out to a misty lake. On the other side, he told Arthur, was the island of Avalon. Suddenly, a mysterious woman rose up out of the water. In her hand, she held a magnificent sword covered with jewels.
This sword is called Excalibur. It is very strong and can cut through iron and steel. But the real magic lies in the scabbard. Whoever holds the scabbard will never die of his wounds.
Soon thereafter, Arthur and Guinevere married. The entire kingdom celebrated. As a wedding present, Guinevere's father gave the couple a round table.
Look, Arthur. This table is large enough to seat all of your knights to discuss matters of the kingdom as equals. On each seat, you can see the name of the knight for whom the seat is intended. only one seat has no name. And this seat will be reserved for the greatest knight of all. If anyone else tries to sit there, he will die."
Many years passed, and the king and queen lived happily together. Under the king's wise leadership, Camelot prospered, and the people were happy. One day, two strangers came to the gates of Arthur's castle, a woman and a boy of about 14.
Who are they, Merlin?
The woman, her name is Morgana, is your half-sister by your mother, the Lady Igraine. She is evil. She wants to destroy you. I hope never to see her in Camelot.
And who is the boy?
He is Mordred, your son. Morgana was the woman who came to you that night a long time ago. She will use Mordred against you. He will betray you.
Meanwhile, King Arthur continued fighting battles and defending the kingdom, together with his knights. Sir Lancelot was one of Arthur's best knights. He was married, but Lancelot was secretly in love with another man's wife, Arthur's queen, Guinevere. Arthur knew of Lancelot's love for his wife, but because Lancelot was a true friend, he didn't say anything about it. One night, Mordred came to Arthur.
"Lancelot is outside, but he is not alone. The queen is with him. And as you know, the punishment for adultery is death."
With pain in his heart, Arthur agreed. Mordred and some of Arthur's men followed Lancelot and Guinevere. They jumped out and grabbed her. Lancelot was able to escape, but Guinevere was captured. And just as she was about to be burned, Lancelot rode in with his men and cut her free. The two lovers rode off together to Lancelot's castle in Wales. Arthur immediately followed Lancelot and Guinevere, and after a few months an agreement was reached. Guinevere returned to Arthur, and Lancelot was sent to France in exile. But Arthur was still angry. Lancelot had betrayed him, and he wanted revenge. He followed Lancelot into France, leaving Mordred in charge. Then Arthur received some terrible news.
"My king, in your absence, Mordred has declared himself king, and he has taken Guinevere as his queen."
Now Arthur had no choice but to return to Camelot to defend his kingdom. In the battle that followed, Arthur dropped Excalibur and its scabbard. Seeing Mordred, he picked up a spear and threw it at him. Mordred fought back with his sword. The sword came forward and cleaved Arthur's skull just as he drove his spear through his son's hateful heart. As Arthur lay dying, his last wish was that the sword Excalibur and the scabbard be thrown back into the lake. And out of the mists of the lake, 3 fairies appeared. They placed Arthur's body on a boat and sailed off with him to the mystical island of Avalon to cure him of his wounds. And some say he still lies there, sleeping in a hollow hill, and that he will awaken one day to defend Britain when Britain has need of him.